have it somewhere. Don't have one here. Yeah, but you don't have one here. Oh. Oh.
All right, everyone's invited to join.
Okay, Rabbi side. So we're up to the Remu. See, we are again very, very, very lucky. You don't have, you have, one way we make the milk in masses. We don't have all these, but every person in Europe, if they had a cow, like I said, my mother, Kanina had 13 children. They weren't poor. They had their own cow, which they had milk. And I asked her, they made cheese, butter. What?
It needs to clean the grass.
Yeah, it's the cow. You have 13 children. And, this was very much negate, this sieve. And I'm going to try to remember, I looked up at Samach Tzedek today, which that explains why in Chabad there was incredible machma. Let's first, it's a little tedious, but it's important, it's very important. I'll look at this. So we're talking about, we're up to page 14, right? Same page. And the Remo is the smaller words toward the bottom. Says the Remo, we're talking about Rabbi over here, that when the goy milks the cow, it's a problem of cholav Akum. And we spoke about last week again, if the goy is milking it, and I could see it, and I could get up and see it, all these different halachas. Now I was going to focus, how much does the yid have to see? Beginning of the milking. Two things. He has to be from the beginning of the milking. He should see bekeli, and the keli shaloi bekli shechol moedu v'tumah. So two things that Ram was saying. You have to be in the beginning of the milking. Now this is very, very important. Till recently, and one of the biggest problem they had in New York and LA is the mashgiach would have to come 3 in the morning. He has to arrive there 3 in the morning because they milk the cows 3 in the morning. That's how they do it. They milk at 3 in the morning. Almost all cows are milked for some reason early in the morning. Mashgiach arrives late, and the cows cannot wait. If you gotta go, you gotta go. It's a terrible pain for the cows. Even humans, when it's full of milk, it's very, very painful. You gotta milk the cows. The cows gotta be milked. So the problem is if they were not beginning of the milking, and this unfortunately happened often. Between the behind the scenes, we used to always hear this. I remember, he wasn't there on time. I remember in Lakewood, they started Chol of Yisrael. There was a Chevraman, a Hungarian Chassidish Yid. In Geman, it was a real Chevraman. He decided, he had a hard time believing Mashgiach shows up at 3 o'clock. So he showed up at 2:30 exactly. And Mashgiach showed up a half hour late. And then they had a fight if it's true or not true. But this happened a lot. And the Lashon Ramah is very misleading. The Ramah seems like it's like a tchila. I want to tell you there's a long shach. We can't have time to go through the shachs. Most Achronim explain the Ramah didn't mean like a tchila this. Most Achronim hold that if you were not there beginning of the milking, it's no good. Finished. But I want to focus. We're focusing if it's a goyish farm. This is what changed the last few years, that in New York they realize it's much better to get a Yiddish farm. If it's a goyish farm, which they always had till now, no Yid wants to own the farm. There's so many halachas and Shabbos which is problematic. It's just, but many problems. And Pesach, what to feed them, many problems. But Al Kaponim, if it's a goyish farm and the Yid arrives not in the beginning, it's no good. Even the Lashon Hamu is not so mediyik. I'll soon show you, say what the Shach says. The Lemus is the Tchila, Tzochniyas Yisur, but the Chilas HaChaliva, it should be the beginning. Another thing, V'yira Bekeli, he has to look into the Kelim, Shaloi Bekeli Shechov Moedu V'tumah. You got to check the Kelim. Now, how do you know, nowadays it's very difficult to check the Kelim. If you ever watched how they milk a cow, it goes straight into the machines. You ever notice how it goes? There's no bucket. What? It's tubes. All for the. It gets.
I worked in Buffalo, in the Hudson Ferries for a weekend once. I went out there to be Mashkin for a weekend, so we would look in
that famous one, 3,000 cows.
We would look in the big tanks. We would look into the tank.
But you didn't look in the pipes.
No, you can't.
So, but how? But truthfully, you don't have to look. Why did you look? It's a Yiddish farm, isn't it a Yiddish farm?
No, because they milk called Akum and called Srs07. They had a schedule. It's 24 hours milking because they had so many cows. And they tell us between 3 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock in the morning, we're milking called Srs07. You know, we're doing other.
How many years ago was this?
17, 18, 19.
Yeah, well, now they changed it.
But they had a separate tank for called Srs07, and that's 3 or 4 tanks for the one big tank just called Srs07.
Yeah, they changed it. Now what happened was they convinced everyone to use them. It's strictly the whole thing is what we saw now. Just spoke to someone about 3 years ago. Because this is a problem. Now let me explain what he just said. What happens is they can't look into the pipes, so they could you looked into the huge tank, and could you see the tank?
It's gigantic.
I was going to say between me and him, what did you see already? You know, it's huge. It's bigger than this room, probably. What?
It's humongous. But the goal is for it to be empty.
Yeah, but no, but we have the residue. He couldn't see if the residue. There was no residue of milk.
But they had a tank that was strictly for the straw, so they had never had to kosher it out.
Yeah, but I was told, from the milking that goes the pipes, that was the problem. That was always the tumult. You understand what I'm saying? The tank was easy, but how do you check the tube? It goes into pasteurization, right?
Not just that, the machine that attaches those tubes,
Right.
they don't change.
So the way to do it really is, I don't know. The way to do it, says the Ramu, is to run hot water. They didn't tell you to run hot water?
Maybe they didn't.
You remember?
I didn't know. I was there with somebody else.
Yeah, but that's what really they're supposed to do. What they do is they come in, the Mashgiach, it runs hot water through it, which they don't like, because they don't like water to go through it for some reason. I'm not sure how it works. Yeah, but they do agree because we're the best customers. One of the reasons the Yiddish customers had a big thing, because we take a huge amount of milk. He's very happy that he doesn't have to find buyers, and he has a steady every week. Well, Kapunim, I just want to say so the Ramu says you gotta see that there's no into the tank or the sea it's clean. So if you clean it out, it's good enough. That's what should. See, that's why now they changed it around. That farm became 24 hours Chol Yisrael.
If the Mashiach sees them pushing water through the pipes, it's not good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough.
If he sees them washing,
So washing it out is good enough. But the tank, it's very hard to see. I was told that. He also says that it's. Yeah, so you can't see there's no residue. You got to climb into the tank. You can't do that. There's no way you could know. This was a tumult also into the, how you say, rumoring, noise. The noisemakers always complained about this.
Let's even say there was some Akum in there.
That you're not allowed to look at Chila. The steht in the remote. There wasn't. They're not allowed
There's a little
to.
Akum resident on the bottom of the tank, and in comes 40,000 gallons.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to. The Shach holds it's B'di'evet Osa.
Wow.
The long Shach.
Why is it bottle b'roiv?
He holds because we never said Bottle B'roiv on this. And the Chanama, the Chaydim say, that's what truthfully they were Saimach on that. They said that the Shach didn't. That was the Kula they were Saimach. Because they couldn't they were never sure that the tank, this is much later they had the tanks. In the beginning they couldn't afford to have these tanks. So when they were Saimach, but they washed it out. How could you know You know, it's impossible to see in these huge tanks. And it was Soimich that obviously, even according to the Shach, maybe the Shach held that it doesn't. But if the Shishim not Rov, you need Shishim. And they said there is Shishim, which you could figure out. The residue of a huge tank like this, there's surely Shishim inside it more than the residue. That is what was a huge problem. Today, here it's still the problem. I don't know. I have to find out what they do. A few years ago, I found out they don't take all the milk of the farm. You know, I mean, they go and they make a run twice a week. They can't. They don't need so much milk to make the whole thing. So they still soimich on. You know, there's certain. It's set up. I was told a few years ago, and I looked into it. It's set up better nowadays. Better equipment. I don't know exactly. I'll find out later. I've time now in the summer. I'll be there to go to the farm, see what's going on. Okay. Come, you're all invited.
Something important, it's so good when you learn something and then you see it. It becomes more understanding.
Yeah, you can make a whole family trip. I took my children, my youngest two children. She was 6, my youngest. Now she's kind of. But anyways, and on one day I was sitting at a table and she didn't realize milk comes from a cow. I said to my wife, "This Chalamoid, I know where I'm taking her." That's exactly what we did. Took her to the farm. I showed her what a cow is and how it's milked. And, okay. So anyway, zug der Remu weiter. Zug der Remu, two things. Again, nahagi lahachmish lachle, noch a thing, there's a chumrah. Nahagi lahachmish lachle bekeli shedarkishe oven lachle boy, shema nishe boy tzachziche chulav shalav lichova. Maybe there's leftover milk from a goy. So that's why they have a separate tank, sort of to say, they have. But that, the Pri Chodesh says very clearly, that if you wash it out, it's okay. That means if you make a run to wash it, this is what they samich on the pasteurization. They make a run. That's good enough. These words, you see there's a long shach, made a huge tumult. What does the Remu say? Mi ein luchish. The Chronim all say that it doesn't mean, if you were not there beginning of the milking, it's no good. There's no such a thing. Not being there beginning of the milk is no good. What it meant to say is that if you didn't check the keli if there was milk there or not. That's what the Remo said. That means you asked the goy to milk, you didn't check the keli, and that the Remo says, even though you didn't check, but it's okay. And in that, the Shach also argues. The Shach says, that's what the Remo meant, and I argue on it, and I say, but it's also. Shach says that if you didn't, it's based on the Shach holds this is the Gzeira. Chazal made the goy is milking. This is part of the Gzeira. He held the Ikar is the milking. He said even just having his milk over there is part of the Gzeira.
It's like lighting fire.
Landing.
Lighting fire, like when you cook. Same time, you got to be there in the beginning.
Right. Well.
No, but you can do things later for that. Here you can't.
Right.
So one second. So I'm just trying to understand this. According to the different opinions, one is if you know for sure there was some milk over there, then it's a problem. The others is if you don't know, one says it's a problem, one says it's not a problem.
The Shach held, the Remu held, if you didn't check the VAT.
You're arguing what the Remu held.
No, yeah, the Shach says no. The Remu never said, and that's what the Gun also says, the Remu never said, now if you were not at the beginning of the milking, it's okay, b'di'evet, that can be. There's no way. The Shach says, and the Gun and all the Chorim will say that. What the Remu says, b'di'evet is good if you didn't check the VAT.
You didn't check the VAT.
And that's the Remu Paskins. But the Shach himself disagrees with the Remu. He says, the Shach was a grandchild of the Remu. But the Tzemach Tzedek also argues with his grandfather, many places. He argues and he says, I disagree vehemently.
What does it mean to be in the beginning? In the farms, they had sections of cows that would go be milked. They have a section of 100 cows at a time.
You're standing when the first one comes in.
But when the first one comes in, they attach the machines, but then that's a group of 30, and then they move out, and the new group comes in. You have to be there for each animal or for each section?
You have to be there from the beginning. You have to be from the beginning, and the goy should be ministers from the beginning.
But from the beginning of each group? Because I didn't see every single cow being milk.
No.
I just saw the first group.
And then what happened afterwards?
We left.
You serious?
We were on the farm, but we weren't in the room. The room is this disgusting room. You can't stand in there for too long. But they told us you just have to go.
Yeah, but yeah, my sense is that you could walk in any minute.
Right,
And-
right. We walked in for each section.
Right.
They have 150 cows.
Yeah, and you could walk in any minute. That we learned last week. That since you could walk in, and there's no Dover tumor, there was no Dover tumor in the farm? No. So then we said that you don't even have to be inside. You have to be there from the beginning of milking. You don't have to even see the milking. You don't even, according to what we learned last week, you don't even have to be, you have to be there in case you want to walk in, the guy is going to be afraid.
And you have to actually check the back to make sure it's empty.
So it's not each individual cow.
Not even, you don't have to see any of the cows. You have to be there that the mirror exists. That, I'm going to just tell you something. That is only if it's a Goyish farm. This was a Yiddish farm already then? I think that's what happened. They bought the farm from this guy.
Then it's Chol Yisrael.
Yeah, but then we're going to learn later. There's still important to Kudus. We'll later learn. When you looked at it, this is in Buffalo, the big farm. When you looked at it, then I was told it's still going. Then a Persian rich Jew decided to invest money and do and patchka with it. But then I was told it was still a Goyish. Then what you did, they told you was right. All,
Akum lived on the farm. They had a house on the farm, right 20 seconds away from where they
yeah, so up here halacha, really, without telling anyone, if there's no Dover tumor be'edroi, they could stay indoors. They have to venture out to make sure the goy should be ministers. But they have to see the kalim first, the vat you have to check every day, and then they could go back in. And all the time come out once in a while to make sure that he's ministers. That's what we learned last week. Remember that we learned that as long as there's no Dover tumor be'edroi,
there, that means everything is Chol Yisrael.
right.
The whole farm.
The whole farm becomes Chol Yisrael. But you have to make sure that this, see, I don't know how it worked. You only made one milking, the other milking was for the goyim.
But it's Chol Yisrael anyway.
Why?
Because they were there.
They were there. Well, if they know they don't venture out only for the first few hours, because I asked this guy, how does it work? And
Still mirrors if you're walking around. I mean,
yeah, if it's he told me it's bitter cold in the winter. And you lived in Toronto, you know. What? Yeah, but you lived in Toronto. You know how bitter cold it gets. No one ventures out for Buffalo is colder than Toronto. Colder than the Toronto. So you know that no one goes out for no reason. He told me this in the winter.
What do you mean when Moses calls the Chol? It means the workers are going or the owners are going?
Right now, we're talking about the farm is a guy. Soon the Ramah is going to be talking about if it's a Jewish farm. Right now, we're focusing. The owner's a guy, and in order to make it Chol Yisrael, you have to be there from the beginning.
So milk that belongs to a company traded on the stock market is the owner?
Belongs to the guy. 90% are going.
If the board of directors is mostly Jewish, it's Jewish.
Directors means gurnished. The one it means the owners. The one who who owns the company is the one who most people on the shareholders mostly are going. There's still more going in America than the Eden. You gotta remember that. We're only 0.005 of the population. We're even less than that, right?
It is, but then there's a bunch of article that just came out that said that a lot of major stockholders and they're like out of the 100 the top 50 richest people in the world, 10 of them are Jewish. Are Jewish billionaires. It's not
Still
enough.
no, it's not enough. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll have major problems with Chumash Pesach. I mean, we'll have major problems. And we rely on this very strongly. We can't,
How often does the Jew have to come out?
There has to be mirsis. That means the guy should be afraid. He has to come. He has to see you, and you're walking around. I don't know. You have to create a mirsis. Maybe that's what we learned last week. That you have to be able to see that no behemoth tamei came to the farm from the beginning. So that's why he worked over there. I was told that farm has nothing but cows. He did tell me that is in the winter they have horses. Sometimes they need a horse to pull the cows out. Yeah.
So that changes everything?
And look, I'm sure, even though there's only
How's getting onto
there's a
a
dog around every
Yeah, that's
Realistically, if it's a modern machinery that's designed for cows, horses are not getting on those.
yeah, but remember, this is what we spoke last week. Even though it's far-fetched, but we Chazal asked no matter how far-fetched it is. This is what we spoke about a lot last week, 2 weeks ago. Chazal, this is what Srs07 and the Tzemach Tzedek. I wanted to read the Tzemach Tzedek. Hopefully next week we'll look at it. This is where the Tzemach Tzedek says so clearly. Merucha Beit Raktana. He had a case, which is really in the next Remo, where literally the Yid owned the farm and he wasn't home and the guy milked it. And he says, even though today no one is chaylev d'vatuma, we never heard a guy, and it's remote, and it never chazal asid, and the iser bleibt this, and it's aser. He's talking. What difference does it make? How much? This is what the Pesachim all the Chayim say. How much remote they didn't do it because, but then it was over muas. Still, all the Pesachim say it's aser. So today, like you just claimed, the machines are not made for that. But still, maybe a guy's gonna. It's remotely possible he's going to get on all fours, milk a camel, and who knows what, milk the horse and throw the milk in. If that's possible, Chazal asked it. See, I know people have a hard time what you're asking. To explain this to understand.
No,
Now let me explain.
You have a different category if the farm is
Doesn't make a
totally
difference.
kosher animals, right? Like
Right.
you said, if it's only a cow.
But then it's still, have to be on the farm.
Right, no, for sure. But I'm
No.
saying, in such a case where there is also a horse there in the winter, right? Couldn't you still say that it's in that category of only cows?
Yeah, but still we asked it, even though it's only cows. Even though we asked
As
it.
long as the Jew is there on.
Right. All right. Chazal made this, and to understand it very simple. I'll explain to last week. I know it's hard to hear, but if you hear it more than once, you hear it. When originally the Chazal asked it, they also knew it's a mita the meita that a goy will do it. Still, the Chazal asked it, so the Pesachim say it doesn't make a difference. Let's say it was 3% chance the goy would do it, or 2% chance. It doesn't make a difference. Now it's minus 0.5%. It's only 0.05% that something would happen. Once the Chazal asked it became awesome. You follow? Once the Chazal said that it's possible the goy is going to put in Chof Toma, even though, come on, nowadays he's not going to do it, Chazal said it applies. Yeah, obviously.
No, I'm saying, is it obvious? Does it seem to say that?
Yeah, that's obvious.
So that, it sounds silly, but that would be the same idea of saying it's so not likely, because if you have a horse, probably means you breed horses, or you own a few of them. Just what I'm trying to say, it's endless.
Its argument is endless, and that's why it's asa. Chazal said, no matter how remote it is, it's asa.
But if they need a reason for the Isser,
Yeah, but
the reason no longer stands.
that's not true. Maybe he had Cholav Toma. Maybe he went and got from someone. Because that's what, once you, see, this is
I'm
true.
looking further to say that today's, let's say, milk farm.
Let me listen, it doesn't make a difference nowadays. The Pri Chodesh is talking about in the entire city, there was no behemoth tameya. Imagine, in the entire city, they didn't have a car, just jumped into the tractor. There was no behemoth. Listen, Luchem. That was the Pri Chodesh Kula. And it was universally not accepted. I thought maybe the Svardim, when I see the Svardim Achrein will say, the Chidu says that in the place they're not so many Pri Chodesh not to do it. This Kamat, no one accepted that Kula. The whole town, that means in order to get Chol of Tamei, you have to travel. It's very possible that the Goy had Chol of Tamei last week. He came from out of Tauber with him. It's remote possible that it's enough. Srs07 held, even it's not possible, it's also. Once the Chazal said it was across the board. The other Chayim learn it has to be somehow remotely possible. Because the original Issa wasn't, you don't have to worry about it. Just like you eat tuna fish. Maybe it's not tuna fish. It's possible it's not tuna fish. Yes, why are you eating it? Chazal didn't ask it because the technical, maybe it's not, is one out of, it's 0.5% or maybe 1% it's not. That's okay. Torah says you're allowed to. Here, Chazal came and said no. You have to worry about, so what difference does it make if it's 1% or 0.5% or 0.25%? That's how most of the Chayim learn. And Sefer learned, I explained last week, he had loy plague. I don't care if it's impossible. It has to be only what either you're seeing it, you're getting up, there's mirrors, Otherwise, even though there's like, it's not possible, it's also.
I understand what you're saying 100%. I just want to, today, the chances of, let's say, for a non-Jewish farm to have trade milk is much less than a yid watching a farm, like 20 million of yid just watching a farm 150 years ago.
Doesn't make a difference.
Today,
That doesn't make a difference. You're missing the point, Nocham. You're missing the point. The point has it has nothing to do with what you're saying. It has to, once the Chazal said you have to worry about it, finished.
right, but the word,
Doesn't make a difference. The Chazal, those days it worked. Once the Chazal said it's also finished.
The reason why it's difficult to accept is the fact is that even back then, Chazal had an exception,
But
which is if there's mirsis, right? So, it's logical to say that today, it's so much more remote than even mirsis. Even if mirsis, it ain't happening.
Everyone agrees that you need the heter, the machinery of mirsis. If you don't have the machinery of mirsis, it's no good. Because the Chazals made this, and even though it's remotely, other things you don't have to worry. If it's Pepsi, you're allowed to drink. That's what I'm trying to say. You're allowed to eat your tuna. You're allowed to eat, I don't even know, the hundreds of things you eat, because maybe it's, that unless you're a holy person, probably we all ate non-kosher chicken. How's that possible? From every 100 chickens, one is not kosher. Do you know that? Strafe. Have a hole in the stomach. What the Torah says, you go b'sarayv. And since it's remotely, it's only maybe 1%, so maybe you're a holy person. But I'm saying from 100 chickens, statistically speaking, if every 100 chickens is one is not kosher, so statistically speaking, every one of us 800 chickens already, probably ate one not kosher. But it's not kosher, it is kosher. Because Hashem said to us, if 99 is okay, you don't have to worry about 1%. That's what Hashem told us. Here the Rabbanim came and said, it's not good. Why? With the ultimate wisdom and the Tzemach Tzedek, I just noticed today afternoon, I looked it over, he says, Chazal were worried maybe things are going to change drastically. Which things could always change. We don't know. Things do, like Chazal said, you have to keep 2 days Yontif because maybe things are going to change. So that's how he explains. Even though it became so remote, but Chazal asked it because it might become. It trades remotely. But I go, you wouldn't do it. But things could change over history, and people will have their own cows, and again will be a problem. It became less problem even in Tzemach Tzedek time, but the going held a chol of tamei was disgusting. They wouldn't do it.
I saw an article somewhere recently that camel's milk, they're trying to bring it in. They're saying it's very healthy, and they're making chocolate out of it.
Rabbi, wouldn't these arguments go against what Rabbi said there?
No. I'm going to explain this again. I'm going to explain, but the Moshe's heter is saying it's against the Srs07. That's clear. And the Moshe is medayik in Rasha, not like the Srs07. And so is the Chazon Ish. And I had time a little bit this week, and I see the Einik Srs07 says, the kasha is a bomb on my grandfather, but my grandfather cannot be wrong. I always say the difference is in the early Achronim and the late Achronim. I once showed that once a Lubavitcher Chus, there's a Tzemach Tzedek, he says, he argues on his grandfather, and he says, Kol Dvor of Tzurichi, and he doesn't give an answer. And I argue with him, finish. I know there's a famous thing in Hilchos Neder, I don't want to get into it, Vav now, where he argues with his grandfather, and it's accepted like the Tzemach Tzedek. He didn't say, look, the highly, he probably was a big chosed of the Tanya than I'm from the Srs07. And he was, still, he came to Halacha, Halacha works differently. Here they're trying to emphasize the Srs07. Bottom line is that Moshe, many Achronim asked that Rashi doesn't. They held that if mirsis, the Gemara says, if there's another say there's mirsis, that helps. So the Moshe says there's mirsis of the government, not because it's a better. Like Nuchem is arguing. Nuchem is arguing that who's going to sit down? The machine does it. Who's going to get on all fours? That's not what the heter. Chazal gave the machinery of mirsis, and Moshe held that mirsis comes from a goy, he's also mirsis. The argument on Moshe was, how do you know this? If Chazal only said mirsis, maybe it has to be dafka mirsis of in, not mirsis of a goy. That's the argument. Okay.
Are there other examples of this kind of
No.
idea?
No, there's the only exception is chorov. So that's why it's such a tumult and it's such a. Exactly, now you understand why this is. It's only b'cholav. The Chazal made such a clear gzeira. And the Chassidim say the reason the Chazal made it a Kabbalah. No, that's not the right reason. Everything is a reason at Kabbalah, but the right reason, the Chazal with the ultimate wisdom knew it's a problem. And,
What are the things of the Chazal done like this?
the acid bishul akim, the acid pas akim, the acid wine. But each one, and here the acid cholav.
We have similar with Pasach, where you can buy.
That's special. They made, how you say, institution. They instituted special kulas because bread is, you got kalechem yichiyodam. Bread is something that you live on. You need bread. The good old days, that was a breadwinner. Most live was bread. Today we got to find out what bread is.
Bread includes cookies.
Right. Okay, let's move on. Now comes a new halacha. Let me try to explain this halacha. This Ramah is discussing what happens if it's a Yiddish farm and the goy are milking the cows. That's so this is the Tzemach Tzedek has a huge chiddush, and it's interesting. The Avnei Nezer tries to explain the Tzemach Tzedek. It's interesting how the Achronim gave such respect for him. And the Tzemach Tzedek in the Tshuva is talking mamish about this. We'll see it maybe next week, but I just want to say briefly. This is the case where it was a Yiddish house, and the Yid left, went out of town, and the shiksa milked the cows and made cheese out of it. No, the Yid made cheese, but the shiksa milked the cows. So this is what the Ramah is talking about. So the Ramah, the shivches shecholves, habehemes bebeis Yisrael, and the Yiddish and the animals that of the Yid, the guy is milking your animal. Like my mother, Zazangas in the Stark says, that's exactly what happened. They had a cow, and happened to be the shiksa milked the cow. My mother says her job was to watch her milk the cow. That's exactly, got the shiksa, got on all fours, and just milked the cow. So they went, so they use a shibcha shechol voice, behemoths basis surah, oi bedir shalahem, or the Yiddish stall, you say in English? How do you say stall? A stall, this is not a stall in English. A barn. Kol mukin shem beis over the chol mafsik, there's no house a goy is mafsik, vein luchish duva tumah, there is no duva to mitter, afele leketchina nich oisam lichle abishen shem yisur klau, there's no Jew there, the ma'achashi beis yisur, oi b'shchenusa ein luchish duva tumah. The Ramah says an incredible kula. If it's my farm, and it's a Jewish farm, and the shiksa milk, as long as there's no duva tumah in the vicinity, then, and it's okay, because on that, we soymich on the small amount of medicines. The guy is afraid to go out and get other milk. And
This is,
so,
the end of the
no, look at Chela. So this is what changed what they did in New York. They got this farm, the Jews.
Why do you need Jews doing everything?
Well, you have to go, the owners, who milks the cows? You got Mexicans, no one is there. You think that the Persian Jew, the rich Jews over there, has nothing better to do but watch his cows? Yeah, but
It still has to be mirsus.
has to be a little bit of a mercis. That means any minute someone could walk in and see that you didn't bring milk from outside. It's not like we had before that you have to walk in and catch him. Has to be a shtickle of a mercis that the goy should not. Has to be a less mercis. That's how Rav Achronim learned. The Tzemach Tzedek as a Chiddush Gudel. He learned differently than Ramah. He didn't learn Atzmirsis. He learned the Chazal. It's very difficult to understand what he learned. That's what the Avnei Nezer is trying to explain what the Tzemach Tzedek meant. Because he says, B'di'evet, and he wasn't amazed, and then he's Mekel. He understood that Chazal never asked it if it's a Jewish farm and the Jewish animals. Even though Goy Marot did it. It's like basis. So we learn by Bishalakim. Remember we learned such a kula. If it's a Jewish home, there's one Rishon that holds there's no Bishalakim. Remember we learned such a kula. So this how the Tzemach Tzedek understood it. I hope maybe next week we'll have a chance to see it. He understood it. He doesn't say that. That's what the Avnei is trying to explain. In the whole Shiva, you see, if the guy was not amazed and he didn't do Bepshia, then I'm going to be makel for him to use it if he makes cheese out of it. Why does it need that? And he says the kula is because the Chazal didn't answer. So the way they explained it, Tzemach Tzedek didn't want to learn for sure that Pshat Nemah. See, most of the Chronim besides the Tzemach Tzedek learned in the Medaik and the Losh Nemah, the Nemah meant a little bit of a mitzvah. It's a Jewish farm, and the goy is. If you let the goy run the whole farm, and you are so touring, it doesn't help. Has to be a less level of mitzvahs. You know, mitzvah means fear.
How do you learn that?
I will soon show you the words mashma this way. I'll show you the words of the Ramaz mashma this way. This is how the what's his name, the Chronim. But the Tzemach Tzedek seems like he was not so sure. So the Tzemach Tzedek is makel to say this is how he wanted to learn. It's at a base Yisrael that the goy who milked it, even though he was away, the Tzemach Tzedek, that was the story of the Tzemach Tzedek. The guy went away, he left town, so there's really no mirrors. But maybe the Chazal didn't answer this, and if you make cheese out of it, he says he's makel. Interesting. But he wanted to learn maybe the moment that this is the kula. But the Achronim, so probably the way I understand it, the Achronim explained the Tzemach Tzedek meant to say he was not soymech totally this way the moment. There's a big tzad to say this way.
So it sounds like it's being even more
Makel. Because according to the Ramah, we need a little bit mirrors. This guy left town. Imagine you have a shiksa, your parents have a shiksa. Many of my neighbors, I tell them all the time, it doesn't help. I tell them the babat in my place that when you leave town, don't let the shiksa in the house. They go to Israel and the shiksa is the house city. We learn, we later learn it's a terrible thing in Shulchan Aruch because she's cooking and baking and who knows what she's doing there. I tell my shiksa not to cook and bake. Yeah. Because, but this is about...
have other Jews staying in your house.
Yeah, and it's okay. Okay, but let me just go back. I just want to focus on Lamaisa. So what happened was the Yid went away out of town, and there was no ministers. And still, the Tzemach Tzedek wants to say it's going to be Mukhavi. Maybe this is what the Ramah meant. In a Jewish home, there was never the Issachol of Akum. But it's not Mekel. I'm going to tell you clearly. He's only Mekel if he was not a Mezit, a Pesheya, is a Shoiging, and I think he says you got to make cheese out of it. It's not Mekel Stamazon. But his tzad was that maybe this is what the moment. This was his tzad.
What would making cheese out of it do?
Oh, because we're going to see in a minute. Well, remember last week? Right. You remember we spoke about it. Yeah.
So 1 second, but if there was a case where there was a little mirrors, then the Tzemach Tzedek would agree.
Yeah, I agree.
You
don't have to make cheese. Right. If that means
these other
the remove
hold, if there was no mirrors at all,
doesn't help.
It's a trade.
Right. So the Tzemach has a tiny kula. The tiny kula is if it was b'shoigig, not b'pshia, not b'mezid, you don't have to throw away the cheese. In those days, it was extremely expensive. It was very expensive. It was a hefsid merubah. We're not talking about today. Each farm they pour out milk into the thing, and who knows how much gallons all the time because they can't sell it. Okay. So you said, I feel like it chelani chayselich apishen shemisor kladam acha shibeisor b'shchinus elu cheshdove tuma. You don't have to worry about dove tuma. Aval in base of yichom mafsik. There's the goyish house is mafsik. Tzurich liyesu sham ki the chovas base of yichom. Maybe the goy went means if your cow is in the barn, to get to your barn you have to pass behemoth tameya. Maybe the shiksa went and milked the cow of the goy. Maybe she got some chol of tumah. That's what I was saying. The kitzur, we paskin lamasa the shach I think paskins that even though is another barn there, he says but the it's still okay. Not like the Ramah. The Muslims say b'diavad. Just that the shach says is the cholim amekel. Which is not so much a gay for us. Again, if you have your house and your barn, you have to pass a goyish place. And the shiksa, that means I am here, and the barn is down the block. And between my house and the barn, there's a behemoth tameya. According to the Ramah, it's no good. No good. It's like a chol of akum. The shach himself disagrees. Shach says, the long Shachaveh says, even a little mersis will be good there enough too.
Does it seem like in certain instances the shach is more machmir than the Ramah?
Yeah,
and then
you know,
other certain-
this is not a scientific thing. This is, now let me explain something.
Conceptualize.
Yeah, no, because this is based how to learn Opa Issa Veheter. This is not a, you're doing research and you find the Shach is more makel and, it is a Shulchan Aruch. When I was young, I used to do these things. I was young, and I first time learned Rebbe's. I told my Rosh Yeshiva, and I say a good word. When I learned Treifis the first time I was young, I'm learning Treifis, and entire Treifis says we are batlonim. We don't know how to do this. We don't know how to do. They used to know how to check a lung. We don't know how to check this. We don't know how to check. I was wondering, where are we such batlonim? We landed in the moon. We just landed then in the moon. I was just a young teenager. We have an airplane. We're not such batlonim. I was startled. When you a battling, Then one day hit me. The fact that I'm living today shows I goofed up one time. But I'm recycled. Otherwise, what am I doing over here? You know what I mean? That one time I was already here. I goofed up. So Baruch gave me another chance. This week's Pasha, just read in Pasha Balois, Loma Nigura. So the Zohar does a Sada Gilgal. Loma Nigura. The Baruch wants no neshama should be left behind. Loma Nigura. I'm saying, but the Maisa, it comes to Rebbe's, every kula you can imagine the Remu has. And Hilchas Rebbe's, if you ever learn Rebbe's, hopefully maybe we'll learn Rebbe's, it's a really complicated halachas. If wherever there's a kula, the Machab is Machmad, the Remu make him. I remember showing to my Rosh Yeshiva, he couldn't believe me. He looked, and he says, you're right. Then I chapped a little later, very reason. Was Titmanish for Panusa. You know what I mean? Panusa, that was the Yiddish Panusa. At times of Rishonim, the Jews were the bankers. That was their main Panusa, so there was Samich and Evi Kulam. But the Shach, it doesn't work that way over here. The Machloik is the Shach and the Mus, how to explain the Issa Veheter. It's very complicated. It's not because the Shach was a Machmer or the Mus was a Mekel. It doesn't work right over here. Just how to explain the Rishonim who brought this halacha down. Okay. So the Remu goes on. A filler, you saw Kutna Ketana Me'ila, helps. A Kutna Ketana, the Oivig Gechuven, Mirses Lefneim. So you hear everybody say, Kutna Ketana helps also, the guy is afraid.
After a certain age.
Yeah, once the child understands what it is. So this helps even for real Akum. If you send the child in and tell the guy, you should it helps a Kutna Ketana. If you tell the child to go to buy me milk, it helps even by real Akum. For the housekeeper also mercies, right?
After what age?
Well, the child, could understand what's going on. So, someone says Bentes. Who says it's Shach? Someone says Bentes. The Tas says Teshon. Has to be an understanding child. He says, "Ve'im chulav Akum mixes behemis roisham Yisrael." The Yid was not there. Ve'achkar b'Yisrael el acherem achshav b'zman hazeh she'en chulav dovatum mutzik klal mitter. The Remu wants to say it's mitter, but the question is, what did the Remu mean with this? Also, the Shach has a big question. The Remu is saying, if you came late, it's mitter. So many learn, I just want to check again, the big machlek is how to learn. Yeah, he's talking about, again, he brings down the Shach brings the Remu meant to say if it's a Jewish farm and you didn't be there in the beginning, then you could be Mekel. But the Remu says you were not there at all, it's Osir. The Shach holds, even though we're not there at all, you could be Mekel. Because Shach is not worried, as long as there's a small mercies. Okay? Finished. Okay, so this is Be'etzem, the Remu, just to simplify what we just learned. There's two cases the Remu is talking about. One is a Jewish farm, or is a Goyish farm. If it's a Jewish farm, it's a Yiddish thing, even all you need is a small, tiny mercies. That's it. That makes it okay. That's why in New York they have a less problem lately, and why we do have in all this other place outside New York area we have to be more machmir to make sure it's done the right way. Okay.
But this is, when you say yid, it's a from.
From it has to be a from. It has to be someone makbid the kashrus. Yeah.
If it's not from, it's
Yeah.
like a,
Or he's not. He could be from. He's not makbid the kashrus. Mamish today, someone asked me this question, like the Nuchum's question. Mamish asked me today. He has a relative who's living with a boyfriend, but he thinks they keep Shabbos, So I wanted to know if, she comes over, if there's probably shalakim, what's the, as long as they keep Shabbos, Shabbos makes makes a person a goy. Not that she lives with a boyfriend is a terrible thing. How do you know she doesn't go to the mikveh? And even maybe she doesn't go to the mikveh, but doesn't. She has to be keeping kashrus, yeah. But But a guy's a mechal Shabbos. The Chazal made him into a goy. If a person doesn't keep kashrus, he can't watch the milk. Let's say he keeps Shabbos, he puts on a bein tam's film, comes to the mikveh. I mean, we have Sfardim coming to the mikveh every day, and a guy once bluntly told me what he does. I looked at him. I see every morning in the mikveh. Well, yeah, but yesh li yetzer hara. He tries to speaks to me in Hebrew. But I have a yetzer hara. But I'm saying, but as doesn't make him. If a guy's not makbid in kashrus, then he could do everything right, but you can't trust his kashrus.
so this is why they live in Israel, because I used to work in dairy like 4 years in kibbutz, and we gave the milk to Tnuva. And Tnuva kashrut I don't think it's that good in Israel. Because again, the kibbutzim, they don't keep.
That's why they do it. Yeah, he's talking about the he's talking about
The kibbutzim milking the cows.
I think Tnuva is too Hashem. You get with just Rabbi, which is not Mahadran, which could have been that part, and there's other one that's on Sefer, which is Mahadran. So there's manufacturers.
Yeah.
How they divide, I don't know how they divide. Yeah.
Right. Explaining that not necessarily.
What are you saying? You're saying that on the kibbutz the hasher wasn't so good?
Yeah, it was a mechal Shabbos.
No, they say you don't.
They milk on Shabbos. They have to.
That's not the question. That's not what he's saying. He says the mashgiach over there was a mechal Shabbos who ran the show.
Isn't it moment of Shabbos? Someone doesn't. A moment of Shabbos.
And in the kibbutzim, they knew what Shabbos is, and they.
No one's done enough. Ask someone who appreciates.
You know what Shabbos is.
You know it's Shabbat, but you don't think of it. They have more than it.
Yeah, but it doesn't make a difference if a person.
The winery, these guys, these young guys from the crush. I'm sure there's some of them that are not so Shem Shabbos either.
But it's only a chumrah because the machines do everything. Some of the chumras with the winery machine does almost 99% of everything.
They're pushing the buttons.
Yeah, that's like a me'ikar din. It's okay. It's not just a chumrah. That's why. Of course, you got to find out. You go to a doctor. You don't make sure he's the good doctor, or you got to make sure the mashgiach is a good mashgiach.
No, it's not like with the person, right? You have a family member come over, let's say he's very, 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 just say you're not sure. So what do? You ask them, hey, by the way, you Shem Shabbos?
If you know the person out of Shem Shabbos, he was from, became an Al Shem Shabbos.
That's it.
If you don't know, he does a cheskes kashrus.
You don't have to ask.
You don't have to ask. He has a cheskes kashrus. I know you keep Shabbos. You have a cheskes kashrus. That's it. What goes on between the four walls, none of us know. None of us know what goes on. You can't check anyone. Barely can you check yourself. Okay. Cholav shoyv dichovim. Let's move on. Cholav of a goy. Asas kelim. Asas the kelim osin ishbashir behem. Kishat isa b'sheni rak sufik shem iribadu v'tumechem givin esayim. That means it asas the kelim. Cholav akim. If a goy, someone asked this over here, and I said the Rabbi was going to talk about it. What happens if people ask me this all the time. Their in-laws are not makbid in Cholav Yisrael, and they warm up the milk. Someone asked me over here once before. They warm on.
The question was if you're eaten by somebody that's not.
Yeah, if it's cold, it's not a problem. People always tell me, my in-laws don't keep Cholav Yisrael, but what do we eat here with the children with cereals? It's not a problem. Cold cereal. What happens? You want to make oatmeal, and it's a milk. Right, or shvuas meal. That's a good question. So if you know that the person doesn't keep chalav yisrael, so the pots is a problem. That's what the Ramon is saying. Now, I explained last week that why you're allowed to eat. I was afraid to say it, because I had Jets boys over here, and they always misquote me. But I said, Stam Kalim is Eini Ben Yoima. He is allowed to cook because he holds it's okay. So it's like I am allowed to buy oil from a goy. Why am I allowed to buy oil from a goy? Because the goy, Stam Kalim is Eini Ben Yoima. We learned this, we'll learn it again later. But why? The Gemara says you're allowed to buy oil from a goy. Because even though he made in his Kalim, Stam Kalim is Eini Ben Yoima. So, and he didn't do it lahachas, he just for himself. This person doesn't keep chalav, so relies on the Moshe. So they made the cheese balances, whatever they made, and even the pots that the blias in the plant, it's Eini Ben Yoimoi, and they're not doing it for me als lahachas, doing it for themselves, and they invited me.
You said it unless you
Why not?
sure. Stam Kalim is only if you don't know. In factory the mashal, which is doing the individual guy, so your neighbor.
Stam Kalim is Eini Ben Yoimoi. Factory is not Stam Kalim. Yeah, we don't have to ask. You don't have to ask. No, you don't have to ask. No.
You're fooling yourself at that.
I'm not fooling, because I'll say Stam Kalim.
That makes the chalav yisrael cheesecake because he's having you over. What do you mean? He made the same cheesecake pan. He made 3 ovens in it. It doesn't work that way.
But even in his house, he doesn't do that for sure.
If you know that
One
somebody
cheesecake
doesn't
per pan.
keep chalav yisrael outside of the house,
But
but
I'm
say
making it
inside the
3
house,
one
chalav
pan.
yisrael.
It doesn't work that way. You keep it in the pan.
You know,
There's people who say outside the house, my house is perfectly kosher, and I keep
yeah, those people you can't trust. You asked me this? Someone asked me recently, a Persian asked me, it was a different couple. Yeah, a Persian couple asked me this, that they're very wealthy, and they were invited for a party, and her aunt keeps kosher at home, but she goes out and eats straight for restaurant. I said that you cannot eat there. And boy, did I get phone calls that day, the extended family. So I says, why are you calling me? You're a Persian. Go ask your Persian rabbi. Don't ask me. I mean, I'm not. The guy asked me. I said, you're not allowed to eat.
But treif is different called Akum.
Yeah, but on the same, no. If the person is an Elcha person, knows your makbid, we trust that he's going to tell you it's no good. If he's not a lahachas,
So if he's a from Jew and he's not lahachas,
he will tell you, I'm not makbid. This is, you could trust him, and he tells you if it's chalav yisrael or not.
Where do you draw the line?
What?
Where do you draw the line?
No, a frum person, like, let's turn it around. If let's say, if I would come to you and I'm makbid in Yoshon, can I trust you? You tell me it is or not? Yeah, because probably you know that I'm makbid, I'm coming to eat by you. You would make sure you would go out and get Yoshon. The same thing.
Unless they don't know.
Yeah, I'm saying you tell them ahead of time. They don't know that you're makbid, you have to tell them.
Rabbi,
They don't even know what Yashan is.
Yeah, I'm saying that's a.
They don't even know what
Chalav yisrael, yeah, we're talking about someone, most people know about chalav yisrael, they do know this thing.
with the oven, in our scenario before, where someone eats non-chalav yisrael in their home, but they're having you over, and they say, hey, I made everything chalav yisrael for you. So you have to be worried that he maybe made non-chalav yisrael in the oven, that would.
It's not a problem.
The oven's not, it doesn't go to that extent. Okay.
Yeah, there's different opinions on that. We mentioned this last time. You said
There are everything everything you're going to find opinions. Remember that.
So, but this one's a big one. You say you slice it to melt it in the same oven, right?
Yes.
So let's say we want to go with the other opinion that says you can't.
Okay.
Then don't eat. The rest of us are going to eat.
500 years ago, they had 2 ovens.
About 5 years ago, 50 years ago, no one had 2
Years
ovens.
ago, they didn't have 2 ovens.
No one had 2 ovens. I'm just telling you, your mother, I don't know how, your grandmother, yeah, no one had 2 ovens. I grew up in Borough Park. No one had 2 ovens. Today, Baruch Hashem, we could afford it. And newlyweds, you're newlywed, you have 2 ovens.
They want to have a toaster oven from all.
Oh, Shem. It never was this way. And what do you want?
If I put Chol Stam in my Kalim, I have to.
You have to kasher it.
You have to kasher. Why do you have to kasher it?
Because when you hold its osser, you hold its osser. Let's say by mistake, treif went into my pot. Let's talk about treif. I must kasher it even though it's Eini Ben Yoimai. But the goy, when he makes oil, I could use that oil. He made it for himself. He made it to sell. He's not doing it
If
lahachas.
someone's machmer and doesn't eat the oil, what do we call them?
Azukah mamre. But let me just, I just want to explain why. But I do know that there are many Meirus that tell people you can't eat by person. They claim that since he's doing it for you, even though I didn't ask him to do it, I just was invited and I couldn't care less what he's making for. It's like I told him to do it. It's stretching it a little bit. The chumrah, the machmirim hold. It's like I'm not allowed to tell a goy, make me a run of tuna fish in your kelim if it's not kosher kelim. That's why when Dagi makes a run, they have to kasher the kelim. But if I buy when they owe you it, they don't have to kasher the kelim because they're not making it for me. They're making it for everyone. If I go to the company and tell them I need a run from you, fish, ketchup, whatever, they must kasher the kelim because he's making it for us. Imagine you should get together and having a run of something. You follow what I'm saying?
So that's what the OU
So not the Elchonon uses it.
Right.
Not he said the people that if someone doesn't want to be soymich on that is a zuka mamre. Chazal said you buy oil from a goy. He made it in his kelim, and his kelim was treif, not treif kelim, which is we don't even know it's treif. It's treif, but since it's any ben yoymoi, he makes it to sell. I'm allowed to buy it. This OU Hechsher, Rav and Shmuel put up. And Rav says, if you're going to be not be samech on this OU, you're zuka mamre. People have a hard time hearing this. You follow? Does it make sense what I'm saying, Mayo?
From Canada, a couple of years ago, someone was telling me maple syrup was a problem because they were saying that the bottles or the cans that it was put into were coated with some kind of a trade coating. So,
Yeah, because it problems bottle. I don't know. I've no idea. But let's say the maple syrup.
not today. This was very recent.
Maple syrup?
Yeah. I don't believe it. I spent enough time in New England. I know how they
It
use it.
sounds like Rabbi Tauber's line about Aser, Rishvil, Shet, Sasha.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like to me too, but I don't know.
Okay, let's just finish over here.
Just look at the oven for a second.
Nochem, you're an expert to draw us into other topics.
There's nothing you can say about outside. So let's say you go to a tray oven.
Look at Rabbi Rancher told it to my wife.
We'd say what outside.
Like use the same oven for those equations. Switch it over.
So we go even to a non-kosher oven?
And now you have to, a non-kosher oven, you have to make sure there's no mamushes. You know, people do managing tell me all the time, just had the Shabbos in a man who does, how's it called, real estate managers. He says, you walk into the houses of the goyim, you could tell what goy lived there. They're so not clean. You open the oven, the thick fat laying in the oven.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Estimate of
Korean, yes. The mamish don't clean. He says, I asked him this question. He says, in the goyish oven, it's mamish thick fat laying there. They don't, goyim, they're not, don't have this. We are in our Torah culture, we know the important of cleanliness because we wash our hands. And how do you know about this, the clean? You're so.
I'm going to estimate.
The estimate, you see.
And it smells like.
It smells terrible. But a restaurant, I don't know if they clean it. If it's a goyish restaurant, I don't know if they clean it. But if it's a question, it's clean, it's not a problem. If you want to be machmir, burn it out. Nochem. Okay.
Self-clean.
He says, "Avaloi chemesh shelehem, afel amuk shnage beisa ein osa kenish bashu and triv shelo." The boy said, butter. We're going to learn later is a chumrah, and the Ramon is saying it doesn't answer the kelim. It not only doesn't answer the kelim, if you have butter mixed into food. Now this is very important, kula. If you have butter mixed into the food, it becomes bottle baraif, even though it gives a time. When we acid butter, we only acid it like bishul akim. Bishul akim, remember we spoke about, becomes bottle baraif, even though it gives a taste. Remember I told the motion to remember is the chont with the meat. If the guy shiksa put on the chont, and the chont is not oli shamalucham meat is, so the chont is okay. Okay? So coming back to the Ramo over here, the Ramo is saying is that the chema butter is only asa baroiv. You don't say what that means? That means if your butter was put into food, if your neighbor brings you brings me some food that inside, I don't have the cookies made from butter, whatever, allowed to eat it like a tchila. A lot of people don't know this.
You can't make it like a tchila, you can eat it like a tchila.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to be mevatel issa like a tchila. But the neighbor brings you cookies and says, Nochem, I made this homemade cookies, but I made it with friendship butter.
I can eat them?
You can eat them. Not I'm saying the steht in the Ramon. Because the Chazal butter is only a minig, so the minig was treated like bishul akem, that's also to eat a be'en. But if there's roi, it's okay.
She's saying that if any dish, like a cookie for example, it's not, it's 49%, let's say butter, but a tchila you can eat.
49% butter, yes. Has to be rov, yes. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll have to stop. And Rabbi Shahav Fu Shalema. The Rabbi Shahav Fu Shalema.
Do we ever learn why butter is actually?
No, the next sieve. The next sieve.
Nurses comes from rakat.
What?
Nurses comes from the word rakat. So the shape.
That's right. It's an Aramaic word. It's
Not from
Aramaic.
Europe.
It's a Gemara.
Not from here.
Yeah, it's in Aramaic. Nurses means yero.
Oh, nurses means here.
Yeah, in Aramaic.
That's called the